So our worldview has shifted, and the worldview that we currently hold as a culture and society, it definitely has different traces in different places, but all in all, it is a worldview that no longer contains God. Now, I borrowed a lot of this information from classical conversations, and I recommend that you look into that as a classical education proprietor, and they do a real good job. And my family uses this as a curriculum and as a mindset. And I borrowed this from Lee Borton's, the creator of classical conversations. So I'm giving credit where credit is due because God has been taken out of education, not just education, but society. And it starts with the children being taught this in school. So not only is God taken out of education, the center of everything has been replaced by the student. For many, many centuries, especially after Christ, that God was the center of educational pursuits. And I don't think anybody, even historians, would counter this. All the universities were based upon an idea of God, and as you look around the wheel, everything had God in the center somehow, some way. So, what happens when you replace God with something else? You see something that disappeared? All the connectivity disappears. So, when you put the student studying all of these different topics, all the topics are disconnected. The student becomes the center of everything, and God is no longer mentioned. Now, you see how philosophy in the bottom left is highlighted. Now, most Christian educations that I've seen are basically this model, with God being one of the topics of study instead of the cohesion that you see in the Middle Ages, the Renaissance period, where God was still reigning as the sovereign. So we need to get back to a model where we're looking at God in the center, and a lot of things will start to come together again. And so this is not just an education model. This is entirely for our approach to Scripture, because a lot of us were trained in this particular model where we were the center of everything. And what you get when you have the student at the center of things, you you get a postmodern, secular, progressive, socialist, humanist education system. And a lot of people argue that the education system does not work, but actually it is exactly getting the results that are the objectives. So if the objective is to be postmodern, secular, progressive, socialist, humanist, then that's what we are getting out of our education system. It is precisely deriving what it wants to. I have a lot of resources I want to share among them. So I want to mention Lee Borton's, the creator of classical education. She has written a lot of good books. And I know a lot of people in this COVID-19 time period, the quarantine that we're having, are looking into education. And these are some books that talk about it, especially the one on the top left, Classical Christian Education Made Approachable. It's wonderful work, and it is just a starting place, and all these are a contemporary of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and the only female in the group, she was Dorothy Sayers, and she did an excellent speech called The Lost Tools of Learning, where she exposed that corporate advertisements were capturing the minds of our children and turning them into consumers rather than thinkers. And it's an excellent essay. You can get it in many different ways. I took this screenshot off of a audio version of it. So anyway, there is the worldview has shifted from God to man being the center, and one of the remedies is to get back God in the center of our universe.